Joining us now is House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. There is so much to talk about. Let's begin, as we wait for a victory speech in Wisconsin, with your reaction to what you're seeing in those special elections in Florida for 2 House seats.
Well, good evening, Lawrence. Great to be with you. It was an incredible overperformance by the 2 Democratic candidates in 2 ruby red districts. Florida won, which Donald Trump won by 37 points, and Florida 6, where Josh Weil ran a great campaign in a district that Donald Trump had just won by 30 points. And what we're seeing, of course, is something that we've seen all across the country since the early special elections that began in late January. And that is Democratic energy and overperformance coupled with independent swing voters and even moderate Republicans breaking for the Democratic candidate and rejecting the extremism, the outrageous behavior of this administration and their effort to harm everyday Americans.
As you look at the Wisconsin result, this was something I did not expect to be discussing with you during this hour tonight. We expected this to be a closer race. We expected the call to come much later in the evening. We saw Elon Musk personally go out there. We saw him hand million-dollar checks to voters, trying to literally buy the election right there in Wisconsin. What does it tell Republican members of the House of Representatives who are counting on Elon Musk to get them reelected?
It's time for them to walk away from this unelected, unpopular, unhinged, and un-American billionaire puppet master. Elon Musk was just rejected decisively by the voters of Wisconsin. He tried to spend his unlimited resources to buy a state Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin, and it failed spectacularly. The voters rejected Donald Trump, they rejected Elon Musk, and they rejected the rapidly deteriorating Republican brand. We have to continue as Democrats to make it clear to everyday Americans that we are fighting to build an affordable economy and to drive down the high cost of living, while at the same time pushing back against Republican extremism and their efforts to cut Social Security, cut Medicare, cut Medicaid, and undermine our democracy and the American way of life. Clearly, the American people are with us as it relates to what they are seeing in Washington, D.C., and we've now seen this in special elections in January, in February, in March, just recently in Pennsylvania, and now, of course, decisively in April in Wisconsin.
I want to ask you about what feels like a related event, especially at this hour, a related event to what voters are saying in these elections tonight. And that is what happened in the United States Senate today. And I worked in the Senate for many years, 7 or 8 years. And I can say that the Democratic leader of the House of Representatives never once set foot in the Senate chamber when I was there. All House members, of course, as we know, have floor privileges in the Senate. They can come in whenever they want to. It was extremely rare to see a House member there. You were there today. Why did you decide to go there today, and what did it feel like to witness what turned out to be the history that Senator Cory Booker made in the Senate chamber today?
It was a very powerful experience. I had the opportunity to visit the Senate chamber twice. Initially, earlier in the day, just to express my support and solidarity for Cory, who I've known a long time. We got started in politics around the same period of time, him in Newark, New Jersey, and myself across the river in Brooklyn, New York. We were in law school around the same time, and I've long admired him. But today was really Senator Cory Booker taking it to the next level on behalf of the American people, and indeed, I would argue, Lawrence, the free world. And so it was powerful to be on the Senate floor with him earlier today. But then when it became clear that he had a chance to break Strom Thurmond's record, I decided to change my schedule so I could be back on the Senate floor to witness that history, because here you have this incredible juxtaposition of Strom Thurmond having previously delivered the longest speech in Senate history in defense of Jim Crow and racial oppression, and Cory Booker, an African-American man, defending democracy and the American way of life in the face of Trump's extremism. Breaking that record was just powerful to witness. And, you know, Senator Booker's speech was strong, it was substantive, but perhaps what was most touching about it was that it was soulful, it was authentic, it came from his heart. Of course, the brilliance of his mind, but it came from his heart.
Yeah, it was the most fully authentic Cory Booker that I've ever seen, and I think there's something about that 25 hours that wears a person down, and he was standing out there with no defenses that you might bring to other sort of public speaking events, and it was really an astonishing thing to watch. One of the things he was concentrating on, and one of the things that he was getting in all of the emails that were being sent to him from around the country, was fear of what Elon Musk and Donald Trump are going to do to Social Security. And that is a fear that is as powerful as a voter could have in terms of an attachment to an important public program, the most popular public program in American governing history. I got to think, even when you get to judicial elections in Wisconsin, if people are afraid of what's going to happen to Social Security, they're not going to be voting for the side that's trying to knock it down.
That's absolutely correct. And this is an area where there's a clear distinction between what Democrats are all about and Republicans. We want to protect and strengthen Social Security. It's an earned benefit. The American people have paid into Social Security throughout their entire working life. And the nerve of these Republicans, led by Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who want to take a chainsaw to Social Security, the most important anti-poverty program for older Americans ever invented, which also happens to be this earned benefit. And why do they want to decimate Social Security? Because they want to actually give massive tax cuts to their billionaire donors, people like Elon Musk. And so I thought what Senator Booker did today was incredibly powerful in speaking to this issue. And as you know, Lawrence, in the House, we had a Democratic-led hearing on Social Security, the threats that it is under, and our commitment as Democrats to protect it.
And you did. I watched some of that hearing, and you did something at that hearing. I know you were present at the hearing. That Republicans would never do. You actually listened to Social Security recipients and people whose lives could not work without their Social Security check. There was a woman who testified, I saw her testify, saying her Social Security check is $1,500 a month. $1,500 a month. And without that, she would be homeless. And the stakes identified by the actual beneficiaries in that hearing were as clear and as powerful as you could ask for.
That's absolutely right. It's one thing to say, and it is in fact true, that there are a little over 70 million people who rely on Social Security as a major source of income, half of whom live by themselves here in the United States of America. But when you actually hear from people whose very life will be impacted and shortchanged, possibly just cut short in terms of their ability to live with the dignity and respect that every American deserves, is very powerful. Republicans have no interest in these Americans telling their stories, which is why, as House Democrats, we will continue week after week to hold hearings. This is the third in a series of hearings that we've held. Initially, it was on Medicaid last week. We had a hearing on nutritional assistance and the fact that Republicans are literally trying to rip food out of the mouths of babies and children in this country. Today, Social Security, and we're going to continue to stay on this case.
I mean, on the subject of Social Security, I would have to think that it was a factor in the results we're seeing in those congressional races, those House races in Florida tonight.
There's no doubt about it. You know, Elon Musk was also very involved in these Florida races, and notwithstanding the fact that these are safe Republican districts, the results that we have seen can be interpreted, we believe, as a rejection of him and his extremism as well. This is somebody who has said he wants to take a chainsaw to Social Security, and he's called Social Security a Ponzi scheme. It's not a Ponzi scheme, Elon. He's a living, breathing Ponzi scheme. Project 2025 is a Ponzi scheme. And that's what the voters clearly believe increasingly all across the country. One point, Lawrence, that should have my Republican colleagues quaking in their boots. In the Florida 6 race, which was a Trump plus 30 district, where the margin was cut in half, and we'll see where it ultimately lands, but we know at minimum it was cut in half to around 15 or 16 points. There are 60 Republicans in the House of Representatives who currently represent districts where Trump did worse than 15 or 16 points. And every single one of those districts, there's now a target on the backs of those House Republicans.
House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, thank you very much for joining us on this important night. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Thank you.